Hey there, welcome back. Shubham this side. Now let's dive deep with JavaScript. Now before diving deep with any type of coding part, let's talk about some common information that you should be aware of. It can be related to what is JavaScript, how things are going to work when we use JavaScript, what is the scope, that means where we can use JavaScript in future, and some common terms that you should be aware of. It can be something like JavaScript engine, or sometimes you are going to hear the term online V8, or maybe something like ECMAScript. So these are common terms. Is ECMAScript a new programming language or something else? So in this lecture, let's take some base foundation about information related to JavaScript. It's proper theory lecture, but it's super important to get you started. Let's start. What is JavaScript? So when you search about JavaScript online, you will get a documentation from Mozilla, MDN Web Documentation. It's a pretty popular one and currently handled by Firefox. So when you search about JavaScript, you are going to get definitions like JavaScript is a lightweight, interpreted or just-in-time compiled programming language. Well, what is this interpreted, lightweight, just-in-time? Let's talk about this first. So when we depend on any programming language, there are few factors that we should understand. When I say lightweight programming language, I mean that it is designed in such a way that it consumes minimal memory resources. So when we are trying to run any type of JavaScript application or JavaScript code in general, we are going to use or consume minimal memory resource. Now let's talk about the interpreted part. What does this mean? Well, programming languages are of two types, compiled and interpreted. Languages like C, C++, Java, Rust, Go, all of these are compiled languages. Whereas languages like Python, JavaScript, these are interpreted. Or JIT, just-in-time compiled language. What does these both terms means? Well, when I talk about compiled languages, they go through an extra process. That means you write some code, you build them using a compiler, and then you save this executable file. That means during this build process using a compiler, you ensure that there is no error, there is no warning, everything is tested, and you run this build version. So that means we have this machine code ready that can be executed directly by our processor. These are pretty fast because these are already tested and we already know we are not going to get an error because we fixed this during the build process. Well, what is this interpreted language? Here we directly execute things. So you write a program and we execute things line by line directly. We don't build or we don't compile things in a different version. I'm just discussing this to make you understand what happened behind the scene. These are the points that you should be aware as a developer. Now let me give you a quick fact about JavaScript. Earlier it was known as LiveScript, but Java was pretty popular then. So the team renamed it and called it as JavaScript. These two are purely different language, there is no connection. Java was popular then, so they adapted some similar name. The other thing, why we call this as script? Well, initially the aim was just to use them on web pages and the program that we write in JavaScript was called as scripts. So this was popular earlier and currently as well. We call the program as script. If I say write a script to do this task, that means you want to write a program. And that's how the name come into picture. Now you might be thinking, okay, great. Now we understand what is JavaScript, how the name come into picture. But how things are going to work? Do we need to install something or is there any way this JavaScript is going to work in our system? Well, yes, we need JavaScript engine. Yup, that's basically you can call it as a machine, a JavaScript virtual machine, something like that, or some type of software that you need to run JavaScript. But don't worry, you don't need to install that right now. How things work is, to run JavaScript anywhere, we need this JavaScript engine, and by default we have this with our browser. Any type of browser that you see right now hold some type of JavaScript engine. Now this JavaScript engine actually execute that JavaScript code. So that means if this web page currently have some type of JavaScript, this is only functional because the browser holds some type of JavaScript engine. There are multiple type of JavaScript engine right now, and each browser currently holds their own engine or they are using some open source engine. For example, you might hear the term V8, you might hear about SpiderMonkey, Chakra, JavaScript Core and few other. So what happened is, initially we had V8 that was for Chrome, Opera and currently Edge is using. Then Firefox is working on their own, which is SpiderMonkey. Safari is working on their own, which is known as JavaScript Core. And the earlier version of Internet Explorer was using Chakra. So all of them are working on their own JavaScript engine, but the task is same, to execute our JavaScript code. Now why we have these different engine? Well, to play with performance. For example, Safari works with Mac OS. They have their own JavaScript engine called as JavaScript Core. So they can customize and work on it to make it faster for their Mac OS. Similarly, maybe Chrome is working in a different way to improve their V8 engine, so JavaScript can run faster on Chrome browser. Everyone wants to optimize and make things faster, and everyone is trying their own way. And how the engine work? Well, it's simple. It reads the script, or I should say the program, the JavaScript code. Then it converts the script into machine code, and then the machine code runs, which is pretty fast to be honest. Now here comes the entry of ECMAScript, and you are going to hear ES6, ES7, ES2015 and these type of term a lot. What is this? Is this a new programming language, and why I am talking this after browser? Well, if you see, everyone is trying to create their own JavaScript engine. There need to be some type of regulation around JavaScript, or there need to be some type of specification that how things should be followed. That's where this ECMAScript comes into picture. So JavaScript is a programming language which follows certain type of specification, and these specifications are nothing but the ECMAScript. So ECMA is an organization that is responsible for creating some type of standard about new features, syntax or how things should work. So they create some type of standard that is official, and these standards are known as ECMAScript, and these standards are followed by each of its browser. So the version 1 was released in 1997, and then the popular version that you hear is ES6, which was released in 2015, and from then each year they update the specification, and every browser, every JavaScript engine optimize and follow that particular specification. So that's the reason if you run JavaScript code in your Chrome browser, it is going to work exactly the same in your Safari, in your Edge, Opera or any other browser. Things will work exactly the same because they are following the same standard. If I run a command, let's say console log hello world, that means everywhere it is going to run in the exact same way. The speed can be different because of the engine, but the result will be same. So ECMA is an organization, and ECMAScript is basically the specification about how the language is going to work. You can jump onto their official website to get more information on this. If you scroll down, you will see that 6th version, that is ES6, was in 2015, ES7 was in 2016, and similarly you will see ES13 for 2022, ES14 2023, ES15 2024 and keep on following. The other thing is you can download the current standard and get more information about new changes or how things are optimized right now. So that's all about ECMA, which is the organization, and ECMAScript, which is basically the specification or standard, and JavaScript is basically the programming language that follow these standard. And JavaScript engine basically help us to execute our JavaScript code. Now the important point, we have JavaScript engine on our browser so we can run the code. How about we take this engine out and try to run JavaScript everywhere else, right? Yep, we can do that. So you will hear the term node. How this come into picture? Well, initially the aim was to run JavaScript only in browser. So browser had their own JavaScript engine. We talked about V8, SpiderMonkey and few other. But around 2009-2010, someone took that V8 engine, that is, it's an open source engine. They used that particular engine and created a program to run JavaScript outside browser as well. That's where Node come into picture. Now, if we need to use JavaScript outside browser, we can just download the Node and then we can use JavaScript anywhere. And that's how we are able to run JavaScript on desktop, on server, everywhere else. That means the initial aim is JavaScript was a client-side language, so we were only able to run it on browser. But then we got Node and now we can use it everywhere. Now the final part of this lecture. What is the scope? That means where we can move further after learning JavaScript, or where JavaScript is utilized. The simple answer is everywhere right now. So if I talk about example, you can see web is using JavaScript extensively. Every website holds some type of JavaScript to make it functional. You will see mobile application, you will see games, you will see command line tools. Everywhere you will be able to find JavaScript. For example, if you want to dive extensively on front end for web, you will have frameworks and libraries like React, Angular and Vue. If you want to get into backend, you will need to use Node as well as Express. If you want to get into mobile application, you will see React Native, and you will see 100 other libraries, maybe for game, maybe for your desktop application, something like Electron framework. So JavaScript can dive and have path everywhere. Now I quickly want to give you an example how things run on browser. Just visit any web page right now, right click on inspect. You will have this inspect elements. Just get into console and here just write a sample code for JavaScript. Just go with console.log, open and closing parentheses. Don't worry, we are going to do this again later as well. Use double quotes and then pass any type of character or word. Let's say hello world. Add semicolon, and if I press enter, you will see something which is hello world. So that's how we can utilize JavaScript in our browser. Don't worry, we are going to dive deep, but this was just an example. You can get into a console and type this to get some result. Now what is this? What we need to pass here? Why we have this semicolon at the end? We will answer as we move forward. Now this part is known as dev tool and we will be utilizing lot of things here. Okay, that's all for this one. I hope you got the idea what is JavaScript. You got some base idea about programming, some history about JavaScript and how we reach here. Now from the next lecture, let us figure out the code editor part. We are either going to use VS Code or Atom or anything else, and also start working with JavaScript. I know this was a pretty long lecture, but it was important to help you understand or to inform you the basic history and the information about JavaScript. Thank you for following and I see you guys in the next one.